The Run Lift Mom podcast is brought to you by my efforts as a Zia Active independent representative and partners Hello Woofy for social media, Red H Nutrition, and Audible. Audible is the newest of this lineup, and if you want to try Audible free, all you've got to do is visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. Today, I have a re-release episode for you, and it is about at-home learning strategies with master's level educator Stacey Barnes. She's got a ton of great experience in the classroom, and she brought it to the show earlier this year. You guys, the timing in this re-release is purposeful. It is purposeful because I know that many of you are making decisions about your children's education for next year, or maybe you've recently made a decision that involves learning at home to some degree, and you need a pep talk like I did. I actually dipped back into this episode to give myself the confidence I needed for our upcoming school year, and I hope that this episode will also be a blessing for you as well. So without further ado, in re-release fashion, please welcome my friend Stacey Barnes. All right, welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, Stacey Barnes. It is so great to have you here to discuss homeschooling, girlfriend. I mean, a lot of us are in this position unintentionally right now.
Thank you so much for having me, Susie. I'm so honored to be a part of your podcast and talking about one of my favorite topics, education. And right now, it's a hot topic because whether you are a stay-at-home parent or working professional, this is all new for us. And right alongside with us are actual homeschool parents. I was walking the neighborhood and I bumped into a mom who is actually homeschooling her two children. And she said for her, it even looks different because of what we're going through right now with the coronavirus. She said she's unable to meet up with their homeschool co-op and attend their regular PE and art classes. So there is no roadmap for anyone for this on how to navigate. We're all in this together. We're all figuring it out together. So even within the isolation of all of this, we are all in it together and it's uncharted territory. So I just want everyone to know this is the new norm for all of us for the time being. I want everyone to take a deep breath, cut yourself some slack. We have this. We can do this.
Oh, Stacey, I mean, I know I'm not the only one that needs to hear this. It's nice to just have that permission to say, whoa, this is scary. And listeners, I need you, seriously, take that deep breath that Stacey asked you to take. Stacey, I am going to ask you, though, to talk to me about some strategies that we can use as homeschooling parents to make sure that we're successful to help our kids learn.
Absolutely. And the main thing is setting the tone and the routine. That is so important to be successful in our homeschooling efforts. So the first thing is setting the tone. And this is a very challenging time for us as adults, but children too. It's frightening, it's confusing, it's a very difficult time. And if you as the parent are feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or even in just a bad mood, that's going to transfer over to your children. Children right now are looking for reassurance. They're looking to feel safe. So it's really important as a parent, you make that effort to be calm, to be happy, so that your children will respond positively to that and know that they're safe, and that if mom and dad are feeling okay about this, I am okay to feel about this.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Setting the tone. You know, it occurs to me as you're talking there, like this can go for anything. I mean, of course, in this health crisis, it's very relevant, but it sounds like, I mean, setting the tone could be really great advice for any season of parenthood with kids.
Absolutely. Kids look to their parents or look to any adult role model to see how they should be reacting to a situation. And another thing is, once you set that tone, routine follows right with that. And I can't stress enough how important this is to maintain a routine. Most children do better with consistent and predictable daily routines and schedules, and when their expectations for the day are clear. So it is so important to maintain a routine and not treat this as a summer vacation. So keeping a strict bedtime is very, very important. Children need to feel like there is structure. So they need to stick to their bedtime routine and their bedtime. If there isn't any structure with bedtime, it kind of feels like vacation or summer, and it throws the kids off a little bit.
Right.
Also, creating a schedule with your child. In many of our classrooms, there is a visual aid of a schedule. The kids walk in and they see what their day looks like, and teachers refer back to that a lot. So kids know what to expect, what's coming next. So that's something you can incorporate in your household, whether it be just a list, or if you have younger children, you can do some visuals. And what's important is to have your child interact with that schedule. They can help you make that schedule. They can also go back and look at that schedule throughout the day, so they know after lunch they're doing this, this, and this. It just makes the day go by a little bit easier. It allows the kids to flow from one thing to the next, and it manages their expectations of what they have to do with their day.
I love this. Something that we have done in our household, and listeners will know that I have a kindergartner as well as the triplets are like pre-K age. And we have adopted a lot of the things to include schedules from my kindergartner's classroom. So, for example, they do a behavior chart. It's like a 1 to 5 deal. One is not acting on your best behavior. 5 is you're a superstar. And so we have made our own behavior chart. And then we also have tried to adopt a similar schedule to what he was used to in the classroom to include what time he eats lunch.
That's so great, Susie. And I know that you talk about the behavior chart, and that's something our younger learners, every single classroom I've ever been in has had a behavior chart. And that's something that the kids really do enjoy, and they are very successful with that. So that's great to bring into the home. But I don't want parents to be tough on themselves. Yes, you're creating this routine and this schedule, but allow for that flexibility. Even in your classroom, things can happen, things change. Don't force anything. There's no reason to get in a struggle with your child to do their work. If your child is resisting something, take a step back, come back to it. Most likely, it's probably because of the change in their structure, their routine, their setting, their tone. It's something there. So go back, let them play outside for a little bit, and then come back to the task you want them to do. Allow that flexibility, because things are changing a little, and you need to allow your child time to accept that things are changing.
I love that. I love that. And it reminds me too, yes, this is an overwhelming task, homeschooling, but then there's also the beauty of being able to adapt to your child's learning style. Like you can really lean in there and make it work to their
Absolutely.
benefit.
And it's one-on-one with your child. It's great. You have to do what works for your family, and everyone's family is going to look different. Everyone's routine is going to look different, and that's okay. Another important thing is to set up goals. And again, in every classroom, there is a list of goals that the child is going to complete for that day. And I think that there should be no more than 3 to 5 tasks for children, especially our younger children. I would say we're going to cap it at 3 tasks. This is setting your child up for success, that these are the 3 things we're going to accomplish today. And for those younger learners, you can put pictures. For the older learners, you can put words of what you're going to do. But this is setting them up that these are the things you're going to do. And as they complete them, they can either do a check mark or cross them off. And that just gives them a sense of completion and satisfaction that they did it.
Now, I want to ask, so I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to clarify for my listeners here. I'm thinking, especially for those younger learners, capping it at 3 is to make it realistic. It occurs to me that a lot of us adults put more things on our goal chart or our goal list than we should. Am I understanding that correctly, though? Like no more than 3, so we're being realistic, but they're challenged.
Absolutely. You don't want to overload them. And the 3 tasks are going to be quality tasks. They're not going to be filler tasks. Those are going to be tasks, whether it's reading or doing math. It's going to be something that is going to be useful for their education. It's not going to be a filler activity. So those 3 tasks are really going to
Okay.
be your core. This is what I want my child to get from today, whether it be from the packet that your child got from their school or something you found online. Now, I know there are going to be moms that go above and beyond that, but don't overwhelm your child. They're used to doing smaller amounts of things, and that automatic satisfaction, even just them going up and putting that check mark that they finished that task, is really good for them to visualize and see that, okay, I did this, let's move on to the next thing. You can even go further.
Yeah.
I know you talked about in your home, you're doing those behavior charts. And whether it be a behavior chart or a reward chart, for those younger children, that's something you can incorporate to motivate them. A lot of classrooms use them. Your chart at home will look differently, of course. Work with your children to create it. See what motivates them and have that be their end goal. So if you say to your child, okay, if you finish your 3 tasks for the day, what do you want your reward to be? And they may say 20 minutes of iPad time, or they may say, I want to play a board game with mom and dad. Ask them what they want. So they are
Mm.
wanting to finish to get that end task. So a reward chart, a behavior chart is a great idea to have at home just to motivate those younger learners.
And the visual, I mean, the visual of having it. So it's funny that you use the example of 20 minutes of iPad time. That is exactly what my kindergartner wants. But I think having the visual of the actual chart is very, very helpful. Um, I don't know if he would be as motivated if for him it's you've got to stay at a 4 or a 5. I can walk toward the clips on our visual behavior chart and he will get in line. Might not work like that for every kid, but do you think there's something there to having the visual?
Absolutely. I think kids do better when they can see the expectations and they can see their progress. They can see what's happening. It's hard for kids at a young age to tell us what they're feeling. So it's easier for them to see that chart and to see, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm getting closer to my reward. So being able to show them that is excellent to have at home. And if you have more than one child, it's also a great way to encourage them to work together to get that end result. Um,
I
yeah,
love it. I love it. So tell me, and I have to ask this because I know there are a lot of high achiever types that listen to this show. What if we dip into social media and we see that the mom down the road is, her behavior chart looks like she could sell it on Etsy and her kids are doing 20 things a day, which we're seeing in Instagram stories? Like, what's a mom to do there? Because we can still compare, even though we can't come out of our house at the time of this
yes. And
recording.
that's something I think all moms and new moms, that's something that's really hard to do. And when I say don't compare, don't compare, don't compare, that's really hard to do, but you really can't. You have to do the best you can with what you have and what your strengths are. And chances are that that
Mm.
Pinterest mom isn't just a Pinterest mom because she's now forced to stay at home and this pandemic. That Pinterest mom has probably been a Pinterest mom since she's had children. And that's great. I think a lot of people just dive into Pinterest and love doing that. But you don't have to do that to be successful with your kids. I really believe that your children are going to just feed off the attention you're giving them. And when this is all said and done, your children are not going to remember the 10 arts and crafts or, how beautifully cut out the behavior chart is. They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember going for a hike with mom and dad or having a family game night. Those are the things that are going to be important to them. So you need to stick to what's realistic for you and your family and really, really try not to compare yourself because children aren't comparing you to the mom down the street. They're just looking at you.
I love it. I love it. And hey, no offense to the Pinterest moms out there. In fact, I'm friends with many of them and I love you gals dearly because when we're able to get out and about, my kids benefit
Absolutely.
from you. It occurs to me, Stacey, that it's the same thing with fitness as well. It's one thing to look at what someone else is doing that might seem like, whoa, she's really overdoing it. She's probably always hustled really hard in the fitness arena. And I love your reminder that, like, You stay in your lane and do what works
Yes,
for
yes.
you.
And your kids aren't looking at that mom down the street. Your kids are looking at their mom at home. So
Yeah.
that's important to remember, that it's what works best for your family and your children. And you can have the prettiest behavior chart in the world, but the kids aren't going to remember that in 10 years. They're going to remember the time that they spent with you.
I love that. Hey, talk to me a little bit about our environment. I mean, obviously, my playroom does not look like the school that my kindergartner is used to going
Absolutely.
to.
So in this new world, we are making our homes our classrooms. And the biggest thing is just to keep it simple. Of course, your home is not going to look like what a traditional classroom looks like, but don't stress out to make your home feel and look like a school. My suggestion is to make a quiet place for your child to do their work. And also just keep in mind, traditional schools have 20 to 30 children in a class. They transition from classroom to classroom, for lunch, snack. They go to PE and art. So your school is going to look different, the environment, but also how it works. Your child's typically in school for 7 to 8 hours. At home, your child should not spend more than 2 hours doing their schoolwork for kindergarten to second grade. And my recommendation for third graders to eighth graders would be no more than 3 hours. Because you're
Wow.
cutting out
Okay.
those transition times, their recess times, you're cutting all that out. So really the day should look
Right.
shorter with what they're able to do in their time. But it's up to you to create those breaks too for your children and allow them time for exploration, play, and rest. Um, so allow for those breaks. Don't have them do 2 solid hours all at once. Break it up a little bit. Let their day have some flexibility with it. Let them go outside in between. Let them have a break for lunch.
Awesome. Awesome. What's something that all of us should be doing every day if we have, especially like grade school or middle school,
I think the
kids?
one thing, if I could have you just do one thing every single day, is to have your children read, read, read. And that is every age. Setting aside time for your child to either be read to, depending on the age, read with, or independently read. Um, and it doesn't just stop there. Encourage your children to tell you about what they're reading. Ask them to make predictions about what do you think is going to happen next in their story. Just having these quick
Mm,
chats, whether it's when you're making dinner or when you're sitting at the dinner table, you're able to check their comprehension. Are they getting something from that book? Is this book too easy, too hard for them? But that's the one thing that your child should be doing every day from kindergarten to high school is reading, reading, reading.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, Stacey, we are having the most beautiful weather ever in North Carolina. What does that look like when I've got school duties for my kindergartner as
Absolutely.
well?
You need to get outside and have fun. You need to take advantage of this great, great weather, go on nature walks, hikes, bike rides, let the kids play in the dirt. This is a time where let them be kids. Most of the time, we are rushing off from going to school to going to soccer practice to going to the grocery store. We are given the gift of time right now to just be at home. So let them go out and explore their own
Mm,
backyard. For older children, it might be encouraging exercise and outdoor activity like shooting some hoops, throwing the baseball around, going for walks, lifting weights, doing things active and outside, but also doing things together. I also suggest that every family sets aside time each day, preferably about an hour, to have family time where you're all together. No one's on business phone calls or doing work. It's just quality family time, whether you're playing outside, you're playing board games, or you're having a movie night. Use this time to create some family memories.
Thank you for mentioning that. Listeners will remember that a couple weeks ago we had Jess Somar talking about work from home strategies for moms. And if you guys didn't get that one, I want you to dip back in. It's episode 34 here in season 2. You heard her when she said the temptation of working at home is always wanting to work 24/7, but you don't need to do that. Stacey, your suggestion, would break that up on purpose for someone who would be tempted to work 24/7, an hour of family time
Absolutely.
every
And that's
day.
a very realistic goal for many, many families, to just set that time aside. And I think children and parents will be very grateful for that time with their kids. And it's also a time where you can teach them life skills. We have a lot of time in the house right now, so you can always incorporate your child with making dinner, or if you're changing the oil of your car, folding laundry, doing dishes, incorporate them in those chores that maybe they're not normally helping you with, and teach them these everyday life skills that sometimes when we're in the rush of every day, we don't have time to sit there and show them how to do these things. It's important to have them work with us on this. And you can also throw in some education there. You can throw in some math lessons when you're cooking, or teach them how to plant in the garden or sew. We really are given the gift of time right now, and the gift of being at home and allowing ourselves time to do some of these things.
You're absolutely right. You know, the Goodwin kids are always saying, Mommy, give me a job. And I am
Yes.
happy to oblige right now. Now, it sounds, of course, like you've got a busy day planned for us. And a lot of listeners are like shaking their head and they're like, okay, if I structure it, it makes a little bit more sense. At least that's what's happening for me, Stacey. And I'm so appreciative. How about, though, downtime? I'm talking about for my
Absolutely. And
kids.
it's not just for your kids, it's for you too. Everybody, no matter what your age is, you need downtime, you need quiet time. It is not your job as a parent to entertain your child all day long. It is not. I
Oh, can
will,
you
because
say that
that is
again
so
for
important.
the
It's
people
not
in the
your
back?
job to entertain your child all day long. And that is an important life skill for your children. You cannot be
Mhm.
standing on your head entertaining them all day long. They need those life skills to entertain themselves and to be independent. And they benefit from it. Just like you, your child also needs that quiet time. Even if they're at the age where they're not napping, they need that time where they're by themselves. So have them either play quietly or independently in their room, read a book on their own, have them quietly do some coloring or crafts, or if they're older, playing guitar with some headphones, maybe watching a show or playing a game on their iPad. Um, just it also gives you time to get what you need done, because whether you're a normal stay-at-home parent or you're a working parent, you have responsibilities that you need to get done, so you realistically can't be with your child and entertain them all day long.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we need to hear someone say, "Hey, you have permission not to have to be on for 8 hours
Absolutely,
straight." And I
you need
appreciate
time
that.
to take a minute to yourself and regroup, and that goes for any
I
age.
love it. Now, Stacey, I have an entire episode back in season 1 about screen time. And so I will link that for the listeners. Guys, you can either click details or swipe up. It's going to depend on the player that you're in. But I would love to get your take, especially given what we are talking about, school being at home. And I know a lot of schools are assigning screen type work, i.e., on the computer in an app. What's
Yes,
your take
and
on that?
I am so grateful for what we have available to us in this time. It is great that students are still able to connect with their teachers and their classmates through Google Classroom and Zoom and all of that. But I am a big believer in limiting screen time, especially for those younger children. But during this time, I think we have to be realistic and reasonable with our expectation, because these are a little bit different and challenging times. And we only can be so creative with our resources that we have at home to teach some of the things that we need to be teaching our children. So I think we need to be smart
Right.
about screen time. So I have two different screen times that I call. So one of them is recreational screen time, and that would include video games, non-educational websites and games, movies and TV. And for recreational screen time, I still stick to no more than 1 hour a day for those types of screen times. And of course, there's flexibility. If your family's going to have a movie night, let them watch the whole 75-minute feature. That's an exception. Let allow some flexibility. Um, the other screen time is what I refer to as educational screen time. And that could be educational games and websites or apps, educational TV, or activity driven screen time like we. Now, that is something I
Love it.
think we need to be smart about. I don't think we can tack a number to that. I think it depends on your child, the grade they're in, their age they're at, and what they're learning, what your goal is. As long as it's educational and you are mixing and finding that balance of outdoor activity and other activity, mixing it with that educational screen time, you need to find that healthy balance. And there's no perfect number for that. It's going to look different family to family, and you need to find what works for you. Now, for older children, this is a little bit tricky. A lot of them have cell phones now. And I think you should stick to the rule that most schools have. And schools' rule is that phones are not out during school hours, they have to stay in their backpacks. And I think that's an important rule, even at home, that you should stick to. Otherwise, most of our children would stay glued to their phone all day. Um, it should stay,
Right.
leave it, say, for these hours, it's going to stay on the kitchen countertop um, while they do their other activities and their other schoolwork. But then when they're done with that, allow them time to use those devices to connect with their friends like they previously did before. But don't allow them free range of those devices, because if you give it to them, they are going to be on it all day. So you need to have those limitations set.
Absolutely. And it occurs to me too, you mentioned connecting with the family and talking about what they're experiencing throughout the day a little bit earlier. And, a kid that wants to be on the phone and connect with their friend, well, maybe that's an opportunity to discuss friendship at the dinner table during that family time, whatever you're doing. I'll mention too educational screen time. Stacey, 3 weeks ago, I would have been like, no, my kindergartner doesn't need screens. Come on, he's 6 years old. Like I was firmly on the he doesn't need screens. Can I tell you, as his homeschool fill in, I would have underestimated where he is in math, in reading, in all of the things. The artificial intelligence in some of those apps, it'll like level him up in math or whatever the case may be. I would have started him out lower. If you would have asked me to give him a worksheet book, I probably would have done something lower than his ability level. And so I think there's a lot of good to be had. To your point, though, it's that we're limiting it and we're
Absolutely.
mixing
And a
in.
lot of the learning that these kids are doing in school is through computers and iPads and things like that. And that's a shift in education that has only come in the last few years. And there are so many great resources online for these kids. And if we just use our resources without the screen, we're limiting ourselves. So we really need to adapt and use that educational screen time, but also stick to that balance of
Yes.
getting outside and playing and interacting with each other than just a screen too.
I bet there are a lot of parents listening that are thinking, yeah, it threw me off the first week or so more than my kid because my kid was logging into the same computer program that he or she had been using at school this whole year. So for them, they didn't miss a beat. It's us parents that we kind of need this pep talk from you. Um, I want to, just before getting some of your favorite resources, wrap this up by asking, what would you say for my listeners with younger kids, so not yet school age kids? They don't have a bucket load of resources from the school or the county or the state. What should they be doing in like preschool age? What should they be doing
Absolutely.
with
And
their
there are so
children?
many easy activities you can be doing at home. And this is even after this pandemic leaves us. You can be doing letter practice at home, and it could be going around the house with a clipboard and the sheet with the alphabet. And they have to find as many things as they can that begin with those letters. And depending on their age, they may be writing the words, they may be drawing pictures of it. Um, they may just be finding objects and bringing those objects. They can do
So like it's like a ABC, like
absolutely
alphabet
letter hunts,
scavenger
and it
hunt.
gets them moving too.
Ah.
You can do the same thing with sight words. They
Mm-hmm.
can practice with flashcards. They could go outside on the driveway and use chalk. They could write their letters in Play-Doh or shaving cream. And that also gets the tactical and sensory in as well. They could use magnet letters. They could use wiki sticks. Anything that gets their little hands moving. They can do letters with that or their words. They can cut out old magazines or newspapers and look for letters and sight words. Really, there's endless limits. They can you can, when you're cooking dinner, say it's pasta night, you draw the letter or the word and they can glue pasta to the word. Really anything you can find in the house, use it.
Love it. I love this. I hope it's helpful for the people listening. All of this stuff, of course, it's obvious when you say it, but I think you have to look at it with an educator's eye for it to be this
And
obvious.
there's
So I so
so much you can
appreciate
do
this.
within your house, and math especially. You have so many math tools in your own house, whether it's just sorting household objects by size, by color. You can have snack and have them sort their snack. If you have a bag of trail mix, have them sort it. You can graph it, tally it, um, teach them to cook. They can measure, count, record, building something. I'm sure every parent has Legos around that house. You can count, measure, add, multiply, ask them, how high can you build that stack of Legos, or how many Legos do you need to reach the coffee table? Can you make a square? Can you make a rectangle with those Legos, and talk about it? Talk about the shapes they make. Play board games that involve counting, like Shoots and Ladders and Candyland. Play card games. Another fun activity is making a map of your yard or your house and going on a little treasure hunt.
Oh, I
And there's
love that
also, you
one.
can incorporate art. All kids love art. They love to paint, glue, cut, color. All of that is great for those younger learners because it's getting them to use those fingers, and it's getting them ready for their kindergarten year of writing. So you can use objects around the house again. You can use objects, a toilet paper roll, which that is hard to come by now. But you can use a toilet paper roll and trace and make different circles and then color them in. You can use old magazines and cut up, paint, go outside and draw nature. There's so many things that we can do just around the house.
I mean, the business person in me is like, or you can teach economics if you have toilet paper rolls.
Absolutely. Those toilet
laying
paper rolls
around the
are
house,
good for a lot.
especially full ones. Stacey, tell me some of your favorite resources. Obviously, I'm wrapping this conversation up. It's been a lot. You guys, I'm going to have a robust show notes for you. So all you're going to have to do is click details or swipe up, because I know you want the notes from this good conversation. Where would you direct
So
parents
my favorite
online for
websites
learning?
as an educator are ABC Mouse, and that is for ages 2 to 7. It has a lot of learning games. And they also have this new program. It's called Adventure Academy, and it's the creators of ABC Mouse, and that's for our 8 to 13 learners. Same thing, math games, reading games. PBS Kids is a favorite. There's Reading IQ, which right now they are offering a free 30-day trial, and it's books that can go to the child's iPad or computer, and it actually tracks your child's progress with reading and reading comprehension. And another one is Fun Brain, and Fun Brain is another math and letter game and worksheets. And for those parents looking for resources, if their school has not provided them, there are two awesome websites. There's Scholastic Learn at Home, and there's Lakeshore Learning, and they offer tons of free printables. They offer some great crafts and games that you could do at home with things you should already have around the house. So those are two great ones for parents to use. And then there's a few that I just found, and I love them. So those folks that have their kids in Spanish learning programs or anything like that, there is a website called Duolingo, and it is a website with games to teach languages. And I believe they have several different languages on there.
They do. We actually use it. So now some people might not be in the circumstance. Our Spanish immersion teacher is fantastic, and she's like on the ball for these students. Here's the thing, y'all. I don't know Spanish as well as Christian does, and he's 6. I've been using Duolingo to fill in the gaps so I understand the teacher when she goes on
So
Zoom and does the lessons.
now you're
I'm
learning
doing
Spanish
the kid
too.
lessons.
It is.
It's the silver lining.
So many great things that are helping us parents too. There's also, I found 2 other great sites. There's one called Beanstalk, and it is free right now during this whole time. And it is live and on-demand classes taught by real teachers. And the lessons are awesome. They have lessons on how rainbows work, how parachutes work, really interesting lessons from real life teachers that kids are really going to eat up and enjoy. And then they can go into their house and do their own experiments and their own research on some of these things. And the last one I want to mention is Go Noodle. And I know a lot of my friends are using this one. And this is a free movement and mindfulness videos. So if you're having trouble thinking of some PE activities or it's a rainy day, throw this on because it offers live PE and on-demand PE classes that are fantastic for not only your kids, but as parents, you may join in and have some fun too.
I love it. So I'm going to link in this episode, I'm going to link in the show notes to the episode we did with Amy Schweizer, who is the founder of Tiny Troop Soccer. And Run Lift Mom OG listeners, you've heard of Go Noodle because this is one that Amy recommended for outside of soccer class to get kids moving. And I never even thought about it being a good homeschool PE.
Please use your resources.
What a great
They're
idea.
at your fingertips. Don't get overwhelmed with them. Find a few that work for your family and stick with those, and you'll be very successful.
Oh, Stacey, I appreciate it. You know, not only are you a mom, but also you're an educator. You've got experience at all grade levels. And this is exactly who I wanted to come on and talk about homeschooling and educating at home and just tips for success.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me, Susie. I hope everyone has a great, positive homeschool experience and good luck. And just remember, take a breath. We are all in this together, not just nationally, globally. So take a breath. You got this.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for coming on the Run Lift Mom podcast earlier in the year. You guys, we had recorded this right when the pandemic hit and schools were just temporarily paused. Little did we know we would be using this episode later in the year. I want to make very clear that there are no easy decisions here. I want to make very clear that if you have an option, if you are debating this, you are absolutely blessed. Know that there is no perfect answer. Know that people like me are praying for you. Ask people to pray for you and really rely on your support network right now. Until I get into your earpiece again to talk about running or lifting, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been a re-release of the Run Lift Mom podcast. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, you know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, but Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You guys, I'm thrilled to announce a new partner on Run Lift Mom, and that is Audible. I've been an Audible member for over 10 years, and my favorite part, hands down, it's the gift of time. I use the free app to take notes as I'm doing my long run and I hear something fantastic, and you are going to love it. If you want to try Audible free, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. That's RUNLIFTMOM. Again, for a free trial, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, if you are here for business or entrepreneur type topics, I want to let you know I have a new show. It's called Serve Then Sell, and it's available on 10 different channels, including Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. The idea here is not to just lump in the business topics with running, lifting, and momming. I want to create more of a separation. I hope you will come hang out with me over there. Again, the name of the show is called Serve Then Sell. Enter that into any search box and you're going to see it come right up. We'll be running, lifting, and momming over here. I hope you'll still hang out. Check in over there if it will be a blessing for you. Thank you for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. What started as a passion project in February 2019 now has over 60,000 downloads and over 400 listens each day. It is amazing, and I know it is because of you, dear listener. I want to thank you for your ratings, reviews, and subscriptions. All you have to do is take a screenshot of your rating or your subscription. If you've already done it, clearly this is fair game. Take a screenshot and go to newreleasewednesday.com. That's newreleasewednesday.com. That's going to put you in a drawing for a free Zaya Active outfit, top and bottom piece, valued at over $100. Newreleasewednesday.com. Show me where you have rated and subscribed, and I'm going to get you in that drawing. Thank you so much for making this passion project possible.